Coming up today, March 31st, 2025, it would have been Dr. Leo Buscaglia's 101st birthday. We're beginning to bring to a close the year of celebration of his 100th birthday with this very special, almost never heard before, interview recorded in 1982 between him and journalist Michael Canterbury at a park just outside Dr. Leo's office in Los Angeles. This tape, never broadcast, was found in Michael's attic shortly after his passing. In it, he shares his profound thoughts on the good in the world overshadowing the bad, and insights on finding the wonderful in your life. So again, the year is 1982. Over to my esteemed colleague, Michael Canterbury, and his guest, Dr. Leo Buscaglia.
This is Michael speaking with Dr. Leo Buscaglia in South Pasadena on a balmy, beautiful day when we have clean air, it seems, and mild weather after a very devastating, humid spell. Leo, your office is nearby. We've come for a walk to this little grassy area by the library. And I wondered, what's on your mind these days?
Oh my goodness. So many things. I would hardly know where to begin. In terms of my own professional life, simplifying it. My own personal life. I'm planning 1984 to disappear from the face of the earth, which I have found in my life space has been my salvation. I've done it several times in my life when things have become large and overwhelming, and I feel that in even the smallest way I'm losing control. Then I go away, and I found that even as a child was a great help to me. I remember touring on a bus all over the United States just to get away from things, and then went to Europe as a young man, then went to Asia several times, and this is time again to go away. I advocate that to people. It isn't a running away from something, but rather a moving away temporarily, because I certainly intend to come back, going into an environment where I can disappear. And so that's basically what's on my mind. But in the interim, I have a month in Europe ahead of me, then home for just a few days, and then New York City for a week, and then home for a few days, and then a lot of lecturing, and then I'm going to Australia for 3 weeks, and coming home, and then going to South America. And then that's the kind of schedule that I need for a while to get away from. Not because it's a bad schedule, it's a gorgeous schedule. I made it. It happened to me. Nobody forced it upon me. It was all agreed upon and fine. But I want that to cease for a while, and I want peace and centeredness and an opportunity to feed in new things in my little human computer.
As I was reading your works and seeing your career take off, going from lecturer at USC in human behavior to a internationally in-demand speaker, I wondered how you are able to keep up with the tremendous pace you're on. It seems like you've got almost the antithesis of what you wanted. I mean, I would think you'd be sick and tired of all the all the love, all the letters, everything. I mean, it's...
One never gets sick and tired of all the love and all the letters, and the fact that maybe I'm, having been a very fortunate one to have had love from my childhood, am able in some small way to give it back, give it to others, tell other people that there are alternatives to despair and to hate and to pain. So none of that bothers me. It's all fine. And I, as an individual, have continued to grow, but in a direction in which I am in control. So it hasn't affected me. People who have known me for 30 and 40 years see me as the same person. The difference is that I'm moving into other spaces. I'm enlarging my life space. I'm seeing and experiencing more of the world. I'm going inward more and more deeply and learning more about myself. In those ways, I'm different and I share them, but I'm still the same person, which is basically something I celebrate, and that is I'm a human person, nothing more. And that's what I have to offer people, I think. So it doesn't get beyond what I'm able to do. It's all that I'm able to do, but I need to have it stop for a while. That's the only reason for the 1984 celebration of myself.
It seems like you've been spending a lot of time living out of luggage and airports. Has that been a pretty rigorous schedule for you?
It's been for years. I've been doing that for the last 20 years. It doesn't matter that people in the past haven't been listening. I've still been doing it. And if you were to look at my vita, I've been speaking to professional groups for the last 20 years. So in a very real sense, the suitcase has been my companion. It's been fun. And I go out, I've met a lot of people, they've helped enlarge my space, helped me to understand a lot of things and clarify a lot of things for myself. It's been always a give and take, because I go with the attitude of I want to share. And when you go with that attitude, you usually find that people want to share back. And so it's been really wonderful, and it hasn't really changed that much. I always did travel a great deal, and it's just more of the same.
You talk about being in control. What does that mean to you in an expanded sense?
That means that I make my own decisions, and then I take whatever ramifications come from those decisions. I take full responsibility. I don't feel that I need to blame, or I need to decry, or I need to damn in any way. I very, very carefully evaluate my life, the people in it, and what direction it's going. Make decisions from whatever limited perceptions I have of that life and myself and the people in it, and then move forward. And if I find that I run into a brick wall, I have only myself to blame. So I pick myself up and dust myself off and start in another direction. And as long as I can do this and have the freedom to do this, I'm in control. It's when I find that I am doing things because it's demanded of me that I feel I lose control. And also when life becomes so stressful at times that you're scattered, then you lose control. And I'm very careful about that because I value time. And I don't see time as being something you can afford to scatter. So basically, when I make the decisions and I put them into action, and then I take full responsibility for whatever happens because of those decisions, then I am in control and, in a very real sense, free.
You said that you're in the process of simplifying. What do you think you need right now? What are your basic necessities?
Very, very little. We all eat too much food. I don't need a lot of food. We all have too much space in terms of homes that are too large. Like Bucky Fuller said, we could conceivably live in a corner of our house and get along just fine. We only need 6-7 feet of space. And getting rid of things instead of accumulating things, because one can conceivably become a slave of one's things. So in that way, I don't need any of those things, and I know it. I enjoy them all. I love food, I love people, I love things that are beautiful, and I like books, and I like records, and all those things, and that's fine. But I don't need them. What I do need is time. And recently I did a talk for public television, which was the entire 1-hour talk was about the value of time and how we have to be able to utilize it creatively. because it's ticking away and we have no control over it, no stopping it. I'm not concerned about the beyond, but I am concerned about how little of myself I know and how little of the world I know, even though I spent my life traveling through myself and through the world. And so time, to me, is the thing that I want most of all. If it does, I'm not neurotic about it. If it doesn't come, if I were to drop dead tomorrow, I will have utilized the time that I have beautifully. But I find that time is a very odd thing, a very strange thing. It's not anything you can grab hold of or define. It goes, and either you go with it or you stop.
When you think about, you mentioned death, and you mentioned if you would go tomorrow. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross once said, a lot of her dying patients say to her, Dr. Ross, I've made a living, but I've never really lived. That's their one regret. As you look back, I wish you long life, but I just wonder, what joys do you have to look back to at this stage in your life?
Every single moment of my life has become a joy. It's like going from mountaintop to mountaintop. Of course, you have to get into the valleys occasionally, but when I look back, I've had one of the most blessed lives of any individual that I know of. I love reading biographies, and I'm always amazed how so often these people have lived in pain and despair and so on, and I've had so little of that. Basically because I think I learned very early that I made my own life and that I made my own joy. I learned that even as a child. Consequently, it's been all an up, and even my downs now are just lower ups. And so I've known nothing but consecutive joys, plus the fact that I've recognized that since life is also a yin and the yang, it's despair and joy and pain and rapture, I've embraced them all, so that even pain for me, in an odd sense, is a joy, because I embrace it, I experience it, I learn from it, I grow with it, and I let it go. And so I think joy for me is just the process of being and becoming.
What has pained you?
Oh, the things that pain everybody. The unanswerable questions, like why must children suffer? Why do we have cruelty? Why death? Why despair? Why wars? Why, when people see very plainly that they're heading for doom and destruction, why do they so blindly head in that direction? All of the things that affect everyone else and hurt everyone else and pain everyone else also still pain me. And the incredible thing is that I don't have any answers. It used to be that I was obsessed with wanting to find out the answers. Now I find that the philosophers who have stated over the years that don't look for the answers, live into them. Those are the important things. So I don't need any answers anymore. I'm literally alive and living. If the answers come, wonderful. If they don't come, that's wonderful too. I don't need answers. I need life.
And where do you find it here in LA?
Everywhere. As I say, I bring my life with me, and wherever I go, I create it. And joy is in my knapsack. Beauty is in my knapsack. Everything that I look at, everything that I see, I'm responsible for bringing out the qualities of joy. And sometimes people say that that's very naive, and that's all right. It makes me happy. I look for the good. I look for the beautiful. And I know that there are some people who are bent on looking for the ugly and the evil, and they're going to find it, just as I will find the joy and the beautiful. And if this is a naive life, at least I can say it's a life that brings me joy.
I don't know. I look at you and I think it's incredible what you've done. I've heard your tapes and the way you turn on audiences, and I feel that in order to really experience the professional Leo Buscaglia, I've got to be in an audience hearing you speak live.
That's not really true. I'm not. If you've listened to my tapes seriously, you realize that I'm no different. The difference is that I'm not yelling what I'm saying to you, and I'm normally when I'm before a large audience, I'm screaming and waving my arms around and getting all excited and perspiring and beating on the podium. But there are many ways of expressing yourself, and in a quiet setting like this, on the grass on a beautiful day. It's not conducive to yelling and screaming and beating on the grass. It's conducive to being soft and gentle. But what I'm saying is the same things, or are the same things that I'm saying on my tapes or in my books.
When I hear the tapes and hear you describe the way you speak, I think of the operas you listen to from your writings, and I think of you singing out your life. You're the performer on stage, living out the roles of your opera, singing, just giving all that joy, all that stimulation right back to the audience. You're a one-man show, and I think you've got to get more popular through the years and more in demand, and it's amazing to me to hear that you say you're cutting it, that you're just getting back into yourself, and just so I'm guess the discovery I'm making that you really are a person who owns himself.
You have to. You know, a terrible thing happens to people when they become or find themselves in the public eye, and that is that the public has unrealistic expectations of you. And I am constantly putting those expectations down. I know what I am. I know who I am. I know my limitations. The limitations that I have are glorious limitations. They're human limitations. And I'm very happy with being a human being and not a supra-human being. I still get tired. I still cry. I'm still confused. I don't have any answers. I'm seeking. But in the process, I want to share what little I do know. And so I have no axe to grind. It's everything is all right as far as I'm concerned. I constantly tell people that don't look to me for answers. People are always writing me and saying, why despair? Why must children die? Why are the elderly mistreated? Why are children battered? You know, and my answer to them is, how the hell should I know? Who do you think I am? I'm struggling with these questions just as you are. The difference is that I will not become one of those people. I will do all that I can to make the world a better place and to convince people that they have the capacity to do the same. Love for so many years has been in the closet. What I'm trying to do is open the door and air it and say to people, stop talking about in whispers, I am a lover, among a certain set group. Start walking down the street and showing it, saying hello to people, doing simple things like writing notes and making phone calls and telling the people in your own life that you love them instead of waiting for them to die. I received a letter the other day from a woman who said that she was dying of cancer. And she said, isn't it interesting that all at once when my family and my husband learned this, they all rallied around me and started telling me how much they love me and caressing me and holding me, which they had never done before. Why is it that we have to learn that we're going to die before people begin to express what should be expressed every day? So I'm saying, get out there and practice love. Don't just hold it within yourself. How else are we going to meet face to face the challenge of the ugly and the murderers unless we stand up and be counted? There are so many people that are ready to talk about despair and to point up despair. There aren't too many people that are strong enough to point up love. I like a quote that I use from Leo Roston, where he says, it is the weak who are cruel. Gentleness can only be expected from the strong. And I firmly believe that. I think the people who are out doing good are the strong ones. The ones that are sitting back condemning, they're the weak ones.
When a person tries to do good, they meet resistance all the way along the way. People suspect them of their motives. What resistance have you had to meet and overcome?
Very little, strangely enough. And when you said that, my first response was, I don't believe that's true. I really think that good perpetuates good. It brings it upon. I think at the beginning, because people are so unaccustomed to having people pay compliments and do nice things for them, that they're very awkward at the beginning. But if you stand by your own morality and you say, it doesn't matter, I don't need the reinforcement from them, I'll give it to them anyway, that you're going to find that after a while it does change behavior. And I don't think people are resistive to good. I think they're just not accustomed to it, and they're suspicious of it. If you begin to treat people with kindness, they begin to say, what does he want? If you pay a compliment, they say, what is he after? And this all comes from just negative experiences. It doesn't come from reality. And I think that if we can be consistent, we can help people to overcome these fears. I walk down the street and say hello to everybody. Sometimes I get crazy answers. Sometimes I get no answers. Most of the time, I will get at least a hello back. Oftentimes, I get a smile. Sometimes some people say to me, you're the only person that's talked to me today. That usually comes from the elderly, which is one of the great crimes of our time. But nevertheless, I believe that good is alive and well and living everywhere. I just think that the problem is that people are very clandestine about good, but very vocal about evil.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that if we want to, we can see the newspapers, look at the media, etc., and we get all of this evil stuff that's happening, wars and murders and rapes and killings and so on. Very seldom do we get any news about somebody having done good. People are doing good right at this particular moment, but it's not going to make the headlines in the Times, and it's not going to be broadcasted on a radio show, and no one's going to do a 1 hour talk about good. People don't do that kind of thing. So I think that the outward expression, what we encounter most, is evil, because that's what makes news. Good is subdued, it's played down. It's considered to be naive.
We're living in LA now with crime abounding. How do you feel about the crime right now?
Well, of course, all crime is abhorrent, but it's never been, I don't know of a society that hasn't had crimes. And this is a big city. And when you think of the small number of criminals and lawbreakers within a city of something like 6 or 7 million people, I think it's amazing. I celebrate humankind in spite of all of this. There will always be a fringe that will think that the world owes them a living, or sociopaths, or psychopaths even. And those are the things we have to deal with in society. But I'm not as concerned about the rising crime rate or so on as most people are. I think we can do a lot about it, but it's always going to be with us, just like illness is and just like death is. I don't accept it. I'd like to do everything I can. It's an abhorrent thing to know that you can't walk down the street anymore, but I don't, I still feel we have to continue to live, and that most of us are being put on the defensive by a very small fringe group, and it doesn't have to be. But people who are now silent have to become vocal. That's the only way it's ever going to happen. If you don't like what's happening in your neighborhood, let yourself be heard. Go to the city council. Speak up. Go to the police force. And you'll see how much can be done, even by one person. If you can get a whole neighborhood watch to be alerted to crime, you can almost alleviate crime on your streets.
I think that's what's been upsetting to me. I came into 3 situations about 2 or 3 minutes after there were handgun stick-ups. I've never had that in my life, and it happened in a short period of time. My tire was slashed on my car by some kids coming out of a movie theater for no purpose at all.
I know.
My garage was broken into. I mean, of course, a burglary happened right under my window. I heard the burglar alarm go off. I saw a guy running down the street with an antique clock he got from an antique store. And then he went back for a second trip at 4 in the morning. And I felt totally helpless. I wanted to run out and stop him, but then I thought, well, wait a minute. What if he's got a gun? I could be dead in a second. I'm going to do that in order to protect my neighbor's antique clock? Hold on. My life is more precious. But I was so exasperated from it. And I guess if you remember Howard Beale from Network, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. That attitude has been creeping up with me and crime.
But you see, you can get angry, and anger, as far as I'm concerned, produces nothing more than a feeling of impotence in a case like that. Or you can get angry and you can do something constructive about your anger. Instead of just put it out by, I'm going to beat him to death, I'm going to do a Charles Bronson and get a gun and go down and shoot all the people I see as criminals. Or you can get together with your neighborhood and you can say, we don't want this to happen anymore. Let's set up a network where we can work together. You can bring in your police who are more than interested in this kind of thing. But you see, there's the same kind of thing that I'm talking about in terms of love. We complain about things and we're frightened about things and we find things abhorrent, but very few of us do anything about them except internalize them, get more fearful, buy bigger locks, stay off the streets, instead of saying those streets belong to us. Let's do something to make it possible. It's the same way that I talk about love in all of my work. It's wonderful to go around saying that you're a lover, but show me. If you are a lover, it's the best guarded secret. I don't see too many people behaving in loving ways. I see people pushing each other off the freeways, beating on each other's heads, and talking about the fact that they are lovers. They actually believe that they are a lover. I tell funny stories about people that I encounter who come to me and say, oh, we so much believe what you're saying, and then the next second will scream at the stewardess on the plane, or damn certain people, or whatever. Well, be rational. Come down to the point where you can observe your own behavior. Ask yourself, what am I doing? I'm constantly pointing out to people that we are always condemning them for not doing this or them for doing this. Well, we are them. There is no them. There's only one world. And there is no them. We are them. And if anything's going to be done about them, it's got to be us who does it, or we who do it. But I constantly hear people putting blame and doing nothing about it, being angry about things and doing nothing about it. To be and not to do, or to say you know and not to do, is not to know. That's for certain. And so instead of internalizing your anger, instead of locking the doors in fear, be the initiator of action. Do something. We found out that amazing things happen in neighborhoods just when somebody has the gumption enough to start a neighborhood watch, get the police to come in to help you out, and then neighbors that have lived on the same street for years now know each other. They have an interest in common, and that is the eradication of crime in their neighborhood. And all at once they become friends. And so there is a lot to be done, but it takes action, and as I said, it takes courage. And so very few people seem to have the courage to get out and to do and to fight for what they believe.
Leo, as you've traveled around the world, I wonder where you have found the most peaceful, the most civilized, the most loving group.
Wherever I am. I think one creates one's own group, and I don't think there is any country that is more civilized and more whatever when you get on a people level. Now, governments I can't speak of because governments can get lost in the fog, but people. I wrote a book you perhaps know called The Way of the Bull, and it was about my travels all over Asia. And every country I went into, I found loving, gentle, kind people who, like myself, had similar fears and similar interests and wanted similar ends. wanted a sense of human dignity. There was I didn't speak the language, but there was an international language in which you could hug each other and you could smile at each other and you could show each other that there was nothing to fear. But I just think that the sad part is that people label people things and then separate them and say, these people are this and these people are that. I don't know that there are people that are more loving than other people. I just know that there are loving people. There are cultures in which this is allowed more than others due to perhaps governmental pressures, but people themselves, when they shut the door, become people.
As you talk, I reflect on the year I spent at Columbia University, and I know that I met the Eastern establishment that I had always wanted to meet, the sons and daughters of the wealthy corporate people and that whole society. And when it came right down to it, the foreign students I felt closer to. They weren't concerned about what type of business your father was in, what your family background was, etc. We communicated. They were having trouble with the language, and we communicated with smiles and with warm feelings, and just the emotional level of just acknowledging the presence in each other as we were together. There wasn't the conversation that got in about the labeling. So it's interesting. I guess I'm identifying with your experiences in Asia, with the people that you met, that universal sense of...
But you see, this is even true among this strata of society that you're talking about. Oftentimes, the conversation or the words that are coming out are the words that they have been taught rather than what they're feeling inside and who they really are. And once you get beyond that facade, you find the same tenderness, the same warmth, and the same confusion and the same despair. So we have to be very careful not to set labels on anybody, but rather try to break through this facade that sometimes is so unreasonable. We usually fight against the very things we need the most. And so sometimes these people believe that the only ways they can succeed is to impress you with titles and with the people they've met and with their father's income and so on and so forth, where this has nothing to do with them. And if you can be patient enough and not have any preconceptions, you can strip away that facade and you find there oftentimes a person like yourself who is in need of love and affection and attention.